Guide for the World Bosses in Long Live Legion's 31st Century. Brought to you by Hero Sin Devourer the Haunted. You can get a couple extra feats called the extra credit. There's one of these for each boss fight, the 3 sub-bosses and the main boss. To accomplish these, you need to be wearing a Legion student disguise, obtainable at any of the telephone booths around the town. You must, however, be in that disguise at the end of the fight, so if you get knocked out and you go back to the fight, make sure you stop and re-up on your disguise first. The main feature going to be after here are the spam feats, which in classic Daybreak EverQuest form are obtuse in the number you need to get, but they will eventually culminate in the 31st Century Sentinel feat, which is a 3-star 50-point feat and also grants you a title. Heading into the 31st Century New Earth, both faction bases are in the same spot on the east side of the map. The bosses will spawn in counterclockwise order, starting in the south with Cosmic Void, then west with Saturn Girl, north with Lightning Lad, and finally in the center with Validus and the others. Boss drops are time beacons that you can use to buy catalysts and other things from the Protect Vendor 3000 from the main base. The main thing you want to hope for, though, is to rare drop the Quintile Crystal Shards. You need those to upgrade your goggles, which will ultimately result in another feat, and until some new episodes come out, is one of the best items that you can currently get in the game as far as your CR is concerned. Cosmic Void is the first boss to pop up. He spawns in the south. It is certainly the easiest of the 3 to take down. There's only a couple of things you really need to watch out for. One of which is his Ring of Metal Spheres, which he also uses in the Alert as the final boss. If you're standing in that ring, it's probably going to knock you out. The second thing is the Eye of Ekron's special attack. That's the reason that the vehicles drop. You need to stand behind those so it doesn't nuke you. Otherwise, Cosmic Void is not too bad. If you're trying to take him alone, yeah, he's probably going to smack you down with 1 or 2 hits. But when you got a nice group like this, he goes down pretty. Even if you have just a standard group and not a small mob, Cosmic Void is still pretty easy. But you always want to keep in mind to watch that clock in the top right. If he hasn't hit half his hit points by the time that clock is halfway over, you're probably not going. Saturn Girl in the West has a specific feat just for her fight called Disabuse Your Illusion Part 1. Wherein you need to defeat each of the illusions that she spawns: Deathstroke, Joker, Ra's al Ghul, and Terra. You'll have to do this on multiple runs, since they're not all going to spawn in one fight. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a delay between the time that the clock starts and her attack actually begins and she becomes vulnerable. Once the mirror images of the eyes spawn, break off your attack. As she becomes shielded, you won't be able to hurt her, and take them out quick so her shield dissipates. If you're in a small group and you're after the Disabuse Your Illusion feat, you probably need to talk to your teammates to get them to pile on with you. Otherwise, if you're in a small mob like this, they usually get taken out on their own just by all the AoE damage that's being done. Again, be sure to break off quick once those mirror images spawn and take them out. Occasionally, Saturn Girl will disable a large group or area. This can take a minute. break out of, but if you slam the action button, you can get out of it a little bit quicker. The Eye of Ikron will also pretty consistently do multiple orbital strikes. Get out of the way of those as quick as you can because they definitely hurt. Lightning Lad in the north starts on a 4x4 grid, 16 tiles. Get more into that here in just a second. Once he arrives, jump on him quick and lay into him as hard as you can. There are a couple of special things with Lightning Lad's fight. Every once in a while, he's going to spawn 3 lightning elementals. And once the message pops up on the right, it takes them another second or two for them to actually show up. Once they do, lay into them fast, stop attacking Lightning Lad, and go after the lightning elementals. They do some pretty nasty chain lightning effect attacks. And if you have the mark on you, shown by little lightning bubbles above your head, anything he does to damage you or they do to damage you is going to hurt a lot more. Now, if you've built up a mark or a charge with little thingies over your head there, look for the glowing floor panels. If they show white, you can stand on those and get rid of your mark. However, if they're red, stay away from them or you're going to get nuked. During the Validus fight, Saturn Girl has her second portion of this Use Your Illusion feat. You'll need to take out Cyborg, Raven, Robin, and Starfire to acquire it. Again, they will not all show up in one run. You'll have to do it multiple times to get them all. Now when the fight starts, once again, like with Saturn Girl, the clock starts ticking before you can actually attack them. So you gotta be aware of that. Always keep your eyes on that clock. Most people are going to congregate in the north side, which makes sense as Lightning Lad was the last one that you fought. However, they become unlocked in the same order you fought them in the first time. So Cosmic Boy in the south, the first one you're going to be able to damage. It doesn't take very long for the other two to come into the fight. But still, a lot of people are going to just hang out and mob and waste a few seconds in the north. You want to get to Cosmic Boy as soon as you can and start wailing on him. Again, for the illusions, when you have a large mob, often they'll be taken out just by the amount of AoEs going off. If you need that feat, don't hesitate to ask people for help, especially if you're in a group running this. Now, eventually, 3 sub-bosses will take enough damage where they will all get locked back in their original places. Keep your eyes on that lower right where the objectives are. None of them will be available for a minute, and then we'll tell you that the Eye of Ikron is vulnerable. As soon as that happens, jump on it. Most people are going to ignore the objectives and just button mash and keep hitting the other 3 sub-bosses. This is a complete waste of time and energy. Once the eye is open, everybody needs to jump on it as fast as possible. So once the eye goes down, Validus becomes vulnerable. The control is released off the other 3 and they help you fight him. Granted, they're not a great help, but every little bit counts, especially when you have fewer people and not such a large mob like I do here. Once you do enough damage to Validus, a message will pop up on the screen saying that you need to infuse turrets with Inertron. You need to do this as fast as possible, and one will be available in each cardinal direction. It's much quicker if one person goes to each area instead of one person trying to get to all 4 of them. You need these turrets up and running to be able to knock Validus out. From whichever one you go to, assuming you're one of the people who actually follows the instructions, you can monitor what's going on with the others by watching your mini-map as the Inertron chunks show up as a white dot. Once the last one's in, rejoin the fray and lay into Validus as much. Most of Validus' attacks are pretty nasty, but they are also mostly AoE, so the more people they hit, the less damage they're going to do to each individual. There's one, however, that fortunately a message pops up on the screen telling you to block. If you don't block or get out of the way, it's most likely going to knock you out. So be quick on that block button. And again, as always, keep an eye on your clock. If you don't have Validus at under half hit points at about 3 minutes, you're probably not going to take him down unless you have a really large mob. Sometimes people are slow to get the turrets up and running. Sometimes people are slow to take out the eye, but you can come back for a good finish. If you're under 2.5 minutes and he's not under half health, doesn't really seem to matter how many people there are, he's not going to fall down quick enough. So keep your eyes on the timer. The last update. They added the Gem Smasher feat, which is pretty easy. It's similar to the Shard feat from the Wonderverse. Just run over to them pretty quick and make sure you activate them before the timer runs out. If you don't, it's going to transform you just like in the last episode. Only here, you don't get turned into a beast man and still get to attack. You get turned into a tree or a rock and get hit with a pretty nasty damage over time effect, which very likely will kill you. Now, pretty much everybody who has been playing DCUO for very long knows that their servers are absolute crap. It's not help when they make bosses where you have to pile dozens of people on to be able to get them to work. So, when things start freaking out like they do here, don't touch anything. Just let it sit and hopefully it'll work itself out. Otherwise, you might get disconnected. Now, if you find that you're having lag issues or your computer processor is trying too hard, this might be helpful, particularly if you're on a console. Go into your settings. Under the UI, you can disable player overhead league names and player overhead titles. It's not a big deal, but a little less information makes your computer work a little less hard. The major thing, however, is the visual effects. When your graphics effects are up, they're nice and shiny. However, this takes a lot more processing power from your computer or your console or your handheld, whatever it is you're playing on. If you go into the video effects, turn down the quality and the fade in particular until they're just barely visible to you, there'll be a lot less stress on your computer, particularly when you're running in such large groups. Good luck.